lived in before I left 13 years ago. But what happens when the average person is suffering so badly? Like, they're going to rebel. And in two of the last three cycles, they voted for Trump. But like, what happens when they vote for like the Maduro of the United States or the Bernie Sanders or AOC or God knows else, who else? You can say it's just a conflict in the Middle East, but really it's going to affect you and it's going to cause the empire to get worse. Here's point number 3. There are situations where force doesn't solve the problems. And so Tucker says you can't simply force stability. You can destroy a country, remove leadership, you can escalate conflict. Doesn't guarantee the outcome that you want. Again, my take on this is you go back to the brand name, the U.S. military, we can take it anybody. It's not working, and now Trump is kind of walking that back and saying we don't need a regime change. And like those countries are like somehow just never going to rearm and never going to become a threat somehow again. But all that's irrelevant for you except for this. What all this happens when you try to force things, which is what the U.S. is trying to do, is it breaks a very common assumption. Someone will step in and fix things. How many times have you thought that? I think that sometimes. How many times have you thought, hey, listen, the world is collapsing, but don't worry, someone will step in and fix things? What if that assumption wasn't true? Most people, that's kind of the underpinning of how most people live. If something bad is happening, someone will step in and fix it. Well, my thought for years, my dad kind of taught me this, is stuff happens at the margins. So what if rather than 100% of the time someone's stepping in and fixing things, only 80% of the time, or go down to 50, now it gets really bad, because what are all those things that aren't getting fixed? All the things that you couldn't force just to work by just bombing a regime and saying, okay, that should just take care of that. What happens next? When people realize, holy cow, I'm actually more responsible for myself than I thought. And so self-reliance is going to be increasingly important. Relying on one country, one system, one jurisdiction, one set of politicians, like that's going to be increasingly dangerous when you realize that their ability and their desire and willingness to respond and be the one who steps in and fixes things is going to get worse. And even look at what Trump did, where it's like, you know what, we don't care about opening the Strait of Hormuz anymore. Go and get your own oil, everybody else. Not only are other countries have to become more self-reliant, which, by the way, you're seeing the richest man in Africa is like, we're only going to invest in Africa. And so Nigeria, for example, has had its moment in the sun in the last month or so, saying, yeah, we'll supply Africa with its oil because they've been building bigger refineries in Nigeria. They've been like ramping up what they're doing there. And so you're going to see more of that. Yeah, we're going to help people nearby us. The U.S. has plenty of oil, but the prices are going to go up. And again, that's going to just drive the U.S. economy in the wrong direction. It's going to have more of an impact to the everyday lives of people there than it would ever in kind of Nigeria or many African countries. Number 4, the U.S. may no longer be able to enforce global stability. This is the real paradigm.
And that's exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly what's happening at this moment and at this current time. You know, what's interesting is that life is a lot more complex than what the media wants you to believe. And the truth is that, yeah, it really is complex. And when you look at people's experience in foreign countries compared to their own Western country, you get a very different feeling, like a completely different feeling compared to what their previous life looked like. And in the next video reaction, we're probably going to expand this notion even more than the last one. And I think it's extremely important to get to this moment. At least I think so, because it truly is important to actually think about this on a deeper level. At least I truly believe that it's the case. And look, I have some disagreements with some of my favorite content creators in the top 5, but that doesn't mean I discredit them entirely, because it's natural to have disagreements, especially when it concerns about your life. Look, I have disagreements with my family. I have disagreements with some of the content creators and the communities that I'm a part of. You know what? It's natural to have that discussion. I mean, that's what it's here for, right? It's exactly what interactions are supposed to be about, instead of getting screamed into oblivion, which I think I'm probably going to be showing you this in some of the next video reactions. And it's honestly quite shocking, if you know what I'm talking about, right? But really, very shocking. And it's with this new content creator that I just discovered. And the next one is likely going to be an important topic that's actually going to be talking about finances and something to do with payment processing that everyone is starting to actually notice. And it's called card skimming, which kind of scared the fucking crap out of me. I mean, holy cow. I mean, it made me not go to the gas station for probably a couple of days just by hearing this word. I mean, I had to actually change the way I do payments now, which includes Apple Pay and Tap, which, holy cow, I was pretty shocked. I mean, like I said before, life is very complex. It has its pros and cons, and you grow into the person that you want to become if you actually keep on being complex and make things even more simpler than last time.
Shift. For the longest time, hey, you know what? My country, if you live in the United States, you say my country is going to keep the world safe. It's going to, we're the one everyone wants to come to. Like all these kind of things that you were taught.
Are you sure
My
about that?
country, again, the chest pounding, my country's the best. But even if people disagreed with that, they kind of felt, some assumption historically. Okay, fine, the U.S. will keep things stable. The U.S. will come in and stop some crazy war. Not all of them, but enough of them. And so where I would agree with Tucker is that this assumption is really being tested because the advantages are downstream of that system. And so if you have a Western passport, you have a U.S. passport, if you bank in the U.S., if you invest in basically U.S. and Western stocks, you benefited from a stability that we're seeing wane. And so if the system can't enforce those outcomes the way it used to, then all the advantages become less certain. And again, what happens to U.S. companies when investors who already before the war this year were saying it's risk on, it's pro-emerging markets, pro-international. Now, some of that stepped back a little bit, although my portfolio is beating the S&P by about 17 points in the last 6 months. What happens to American companies? What happens to the banks? What happens to the safety of those banks? What happens to everything downstream of people thought this was the place that would keep the world safe, and it can't anymore. There's a downstream consequence. I don't even care if you say, I never want to leave, Kentucky. I'm perfectly happy here. What do I care what happens in like Lebanon? Okay, there's downstream consequences of everything that happens when people say, we don't trust your country enough as much as we used to with our capital. We don't want to come to your countries. But like, all these things have downstream problems. Not overnight. Just slowly weaker, the same way that the U.S. dollar has lost 16 or 17 points of global.
Are you tired of your corporate overlords owning you? It's time that you own your freedom with RetroFocus 85. It will save 20% of your entire order, regardless of your new and old customer. You get to apply this promo code on nomadicpath.com. And if you act right now before September 15th, 2026, you will actually save a significant amount of money, your freedom and liberty, and your life. Act right now before September 15th, 2020.
Turn of the century. And what you're already seeing.
And that's a very good point. Is that what happens with investor confidence when everything is shaken? And as an investor myself, I've seen some stocks that go up and down, and crypto and metals since the Iran war pretty much shaken everybody. I mean, I saw it with my own two eyeballs, and even me, I'm not immune to this. It's insane, man. And I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? Usually gold and precious metals and defense would go up during this time, but I guess not. But it emphasizes the point that not everything is going to remain the same. It emphasizes that point very clearly, and it challenges the myths and some truths that we don't want to talk about. And like I said before, life is complex.
Seeing is more conditional approval. So Spain and France and the UK are like allies of the U.S. Hey, we don't want to agree with you. We're not going to do what you want. You're seeing more countries selling their U.S. treasuries. Like this all has downstream consequences. And lastly, point 5, power is shifting towards economics and geography, not ideology. And so Tucker's final point that I thought was relevant to you was that power isn't just the military, but about relationships, trade, and resources. I've been telling you this. And again, when a growing part of the world, and I would argue at this point a majority of the world, says we don't like the U.S. telling us what to do, then that's why you have BRICS. That's why you have increasing Pan-Africanism. That's why you have the rise of the importance of ASEAN in Southeast Asia, and like Mercosur in South America is doing trade deals with the European Union, and like just everyone's kind of forming their regional blocs. I've been telling you, you should have residence permits and or passports in as many of those blocks as possible, so that whatever's happening, wherever the opportunities are, wherever the safety is, wherever the freedom is, you can pivot to those places. Because the U.S. military being kind of the sole source of protecting you is not only coming to an end, but it's sort of irrelevant in the 21st century, where relationships and trade and resources matter, and the U.S. is pushing in the wrong direction. Now, if you don't like Trump, you could say, well, I'm sure the next guy will come in and fix it. You can only do that so many times. Like, you can only break a vase so many times. You can only break the glass to where like you can't put it back together. Because when Canada is like, you know what, let's buy cars from China, actually. Like that seems like a better path for us. When the European Union is like, let's sell stuff to South America and India, and let's do trade deals there. Like, once that infrastructure is built up, it's the same as a supply chain. You can't just like flip it on or off overnight. Like, that's where the allegiances are going to go. That's where people are going to be doing trade and building their relationships and sharing their resources. That's why China and now Russia have made such big plays into the continent of Africa. Now the U.S. is trying to come and like bully their way in, and like, we're not going to send you like HIV medication anymore. We're not going to let our pharma companies, like, literally think about that. We're literally not going to allow our pharmaceutical companies to sell HIV medication to your children if you don't give us your natural resources. Like, that's over. That is very quickly coming to an end in 2026 and beyond. And so the old model was pick a country that you agree with politically, and people often did that under coercion. The new model is, basically countries are going to pick places where they can have relationships and do trade. And so for you, the same model is pick jurisdictions that are economically relevant, resource secure, and strategically positioned. Many years ago, I said, it'd be a good passport to have one that has like really good fresh water. And there's countries in like Eastern Europe.
And yeah, I think the point that he was trying to say to bring this three-part recording session that are split up into different videos is that other countries that were allies of the US are exploring more options. And you know what? Can you really blame them for doing that? I mean, what happens when you have countries like Japan, Italy, France, and Germany that are exploring more options because of their reliance on the US for so many years, and even Canada as well? What happens to the US, especially with the tariffs and everything going on and the cost of living? What happens? Who's going to win from all this? Their new partners. Exactly. The new partners and the allies. Is this a win for anyone else that is living in the dying US neocon, neoliberal empire? No. They take it as an insult. But for the people there, it's a completely different story depending on what life path you're really in on. Like, if you're a young professional or someone that graduated from high school or is in high school, or the youngsters, which, by the way, Gen Alpha is actually rebelling against iPads after Toy Story 5, which emphasizes that the old days of control is coming to an end. I mean, let's be very, very clear. Life is becoming very more complex, and it's turning into the gray area. And it's not all black and white like you think many decades ago. And it will lead the downfall of the empire. And that's exactly what happened to Rome. That's what happened to the Soviet Union and the dynasties in China. It's going to keep on repeating itself. Eventually, people are going to wake up more and more often. And if we see this uprising continue, which I just mentioned in my YouTube short, if you are willing to check it out, it's going to lead to change that we have never seen before in probably in hundreds of years. So, the best thing we can all do right now is to prepare and adapt. And that's about our only survival right now. I mean, we were able to survive this for thousands and thousands of years as people that wander around from continent to continent, I think we can do the exact same thing in a technological future when we head into the 2030s. And with that in mind, that is it for today's video. If you enjoy videos like this, do me a favor, like and share, and comment down below on my YouTube channel, so that way it tells the algorithm that we have a chance. Subscribe to my channel and check out all of my social media accounts in the link in the description. Check out my Nomadic Freedom Forum community in the description down below. Check out Nomadic Path. And if you want to buy my products, use the promo code RetroFocus85. It'll save 20% of your entire order plus free shipping, and that promo will last through the whole summer until September 15th. So make this your opportunity to buy from one of my products in the link in the description, and it'll be on the front page when you first click on the website, and you're going to like what you see. And it's a win-win for all of us at this very moment and at this pivotal multipolar moment. And with that in mind, that's it for today's video, and I'll see y'all in the next video reaction in the near future. Take the golden pill. The revolution is now.
If you enjoy videos like this, and you're actually interested in videos like this one that just happened recently, do me a favor, like and share and comment down below and subscribe to this channel right here and right now. With that in mind, I'll see you in the next video, Innovator.